Hello, I'm Fred Walti, the CEO of the Network for Global Innovation. And from time to time, we have the opportunity to chat with our members from around the world. And today we have the opportunity to talk with Davide Damosso, who is the Director of Operations on an environmental park in Turin, which is in northern Italy. Davide, I would like to, of course, welcome you to this. You have a technology park that physically is very large. You operate laboratories. I think those are pretty closely connected with local universities.
In our city, there are two big universities. One is the University of Turin, it's with around 70,000 students, and another university that is a technical university, Polytechnic of Turin, that is, of course, more recent as an institution, but works with 30,000 students. So in city, there are more than 110,000 students at university.
So you have three roles that I could tell. Operator of a technology park, which includes the second role, which is operator of a laboratory and in relationships with the universities. And then the third, in my language, is that you kind of manage the local ecosystem of innovation. And how many companies are in that kind of ecosystem?
Related to sustainability, or to clean tech, we can say.
Yep.
Count on 150 companies connected in a formal association.
A week or so ago, we were talking about the impact of COVID. And of course, countries around the world are trying to figure out how can they stimulate their economies? What do they need to do to react to this disruption? Let's start with the longer term program for the European Union, which I think is called the Green Deal.
This period starts in this year, 2021, till 2027. This Green Deal is a very ambitious strategic document that has been approved by the Commission, by the Parliament last year, outlines the pathway for the European Union in order to match the goals of the Paris Agreement to be completely climate neutral in 2050. Means greening agriculture, industry, consumption, setting a clear definition and implementation of circular economy, decarbonization of energy, transport. So it's a very, very wide strategy entering in all the sectors of economics and support the creation of an industrial leadership, we can say, in clean tech. Probably the first time in which very clearly Europe says that this is a driver for competitiveness.
To be the leader in various green technology sectors.
You have to know that in the last period, the share of budget that was dedicated to green targets, we can say, was lower than 20%. This time, the share has been set at 30%. All the stimulus package that is being called in Europe the so-called Next Generation EU Fund. And this is an additional amount that is around 750 billion euros in a shorter period. And again, the 30% of the share set as a green expenditure even for this fund. Yeah.
So in what form do you think this 30% of expenditures is going to take?
The most important in terms of amount and quantitative thinking is about infrastructures and energy infrastructures, transport infrastructures, decarbonization of processes. A very important part will be on the so-called innovation fund related to the CO2 reduction. So a part of the hard to abate, so-called hard to abate sectors, I mean steelworks, I mean chemistry, I mean, so big emission industries will be affected by this. But even in other sectors, not only industry, not only transport, but agriculture. Funds for agriculture are very important in the European budget and will be used through regional and national distribution in each country on the basis of green sounding actions. I mean,
each country submits a proposal on how they would use part of the innovation fund? Is that how it would work?
Part of this budget will be used, are used usually on the basis not of national planning, but of regional planning. And this
Across
is
the EU.
Across the EU, exactly. And these are called so-called cohesion funds to create balance between more developed regions and less developed regions. And some actions directly managed at the European level. For example, all the research funds in the so-called research framework programs are directly managed in Brussels for all the countries. So all the bids are managed in Brussels, and all the European centers or companies are competing on a European basis. Even some infrastructural programs are based that are managed directly at the European level, and these are, for example, all the main corridors for transportation are supported by funds managed in Brussels on the basis of national plans. But and in this case, we'll have expect electrification of transport, hydrogen, and an integration of different transportation modes.